Ratio and percent problems, always a little bit of an issue until you get used to them. They're a little bit different, but once you understand a few mistakes not to make, it opens up pretty easily. Remember, ratios, they're pretty much just a fraction, and we can make any fraction into a percentage. You know, you take the top number, divide it by the bottom, and it becomes a decimal. And then you can slide that decimal over 2 places to the right. Next thing you know, it's a percentage. Same thing with the percentage. We can actually make that into a fraction, which, hey, guess what? That's a ratio. So that's okay. We can do that. Let's go down here and take a look at this problem. It's an interesting one. Um, there's the answer, so let's just go ahead and get that off the screen. There we go. The recipe for jam requires 10 cups of sugar for every 3 cups of strawberries. What percent of the jam is strawberries? So I need to know what percent of the jam. We have nothing to deal with percents in the question. We just know that, quite frankly, there's a ratio of 10 cups of sugar. So let's go ahead and make that red to stand out for every 3 cups strawberries. So let's make that one red. So that's kind of like our information. And then it just says, well, what percent of the jam is the strawberries? So what percent of the jam? We're not saying what percent in relation to this. One of the most common mistakes that I see is that a person will go, well, let's see, there's 3 cups strawberries, and there's 10 cups sugar. So that's 3/10. That's the same as 0.3, because I could take it and say 3 divided by 10 is 0.3, and I slide this over 2 steps to the right. Next thing you know, you're saying it's 30% strawberries, and you'd be wrong. So instead, what I want you to do is I want you to actually picture this big pot that you're using to make the strawberry jam. So here it is, and let's go and let's just dump in our 10 cups of sugar. So we dump it in, and it fills up the pot right there. There's our 10 cups of sugar right there. Now, we still need to dump in the 3 cups of strawberries. That's not going to take up as much room, possibly. So we'll say that this is the 3 cups of strawberries. And let me just abbreviate that because I'm running out of space. Now, the whole jam together is how many cups? 13 cups total. As a result, you have to remember that a percent is a part of a whole, or part of the total. So when we make a ratio, I'm going to say this is 13 cups on the bottom, but the strawberries is 3 cups on the top. So I'm not using this ratio of 3 to 10. You know, it's not strawberries to sugar. It's strawberries to the total amount of jam. So this is like 13 cups of jam. This was 3 cups of strawberries. So that's the reason I'm using that 3 to 13 setup there. And let's get all this extra information off here we don't need. Again, this is a ratio. How do we make it into a percent? We just take 3 and divide it by 13. That comes up as 0.2307, and it keeps going. So basically, let's just go through and just say it's approximately 0.23, which is equal to 23%. Okay, so that's 23% there. And what we have to do then is take a look at the question, what percent of the jam is strawberries, and we start using that question to frame our sentence to answer it. The percent of the jam that is strawberries is 23%. The percent of the jam that is strawberries is 23%. Check for, spelling errors and everything else. You should never say, well, I'm not a good speller and I don't know how to spell strawberries when the question itself says strawberries. Okay, so make sure that you use every clue possible that's available to you. Don't get lazy on that. So be careful on doing these ratio problems where they ask you about a percent, because you've got to be able to picture the scenario, and you're going to have to find out what the total is, because anytime you got to convert over to a percentage, you need to know what the total is, and sometimes they're not going to give that. Sometimes you might have to add the 2 numbers given together to get your total. Okay, now here it is. A school polled their 450 students about their favorite sports team. 30% like team, 40% like team B. and 30% didn't like either team. What is the ratio of people that like Team A to people that liked Team B? So to get a good understanding of what's happening here, first off, they gave us nothing but percents as far as relation to Team A and Team B. They did tell us how many total students we have, so let's write that down. Total, 450 students. Okay. I also know that Team A, 30% of this 450 students liked Team A. I also know that Team B, 40% liked them. And I need to get an answer that is a ratio of the number of people that are all about Team A and the number of people that like Team B. And Team A needs to go on top because it's mentioned first, and it says the word to Team B. So Team A above, Team B below. We need to get these numbers here. Do not do this. It does not mean 30 to 40. Is this a number? No, this is a percent right here. That's a 30%. This is a 40%. I want to know the ratio of people, not percent, the ratio of people. How many people of 450 students like Team A? If I could answer that question, how many people like Team A, I'd be okay. And we should be able to do that because I know that I can find 30% of 450. How? I turn this into a decimal and then I just multiply it by 450. I pull out my calculator, I type in 0.30, times it by 450, and we get 135. So what is 30% of 450 total students? It's 135 kids. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and erase this right here and just write 135. Now we can do the exact same thing for Team B. What is 40% of 450? Well, 0.40 times 450 equals 180. So I'm going to erase this right here and record it as 180. So this is Team A, this is Team B. Now again, we need to look at the question and frame an answer in the form of a sentence that gives the question makers or whoever's giving this question exactly what they want. And I think right here's the best place to start. If we just said the ratio of people like Team A to people that like Team B, and then we could put the word is right there. So let me just copy that, pull it straight down. So again, I'm using this question to build my answer. Well, the ratio of people that like Team A to people that like Team B is this right here, 135 to 180. And I don't have to go into anything else. It said ratio. They didn't say rate, they said ratio. I don't have to label the ratios necessarily. I've done everything that they've asked me. I made sure that my Team A amount is first and my Team B is second, and I'm ready to wrap the question up and move on.